What happens when you see your own company turn away a customer in a wheelchair and you're standing right behind them? Wesley Moore stood in front of the mirror in his hotel room, adjusting the black baseball cap low over his forehead. With a dyed beard, thick framed glasses, and an oversized hoodie, he looked nothing like the CEO of an 18-location fast casual diner chain. The last time he'd visited one of his own restaurants without a press team or regional tour, it was over 4 years ago. He'd bought the chain from an older couple who were retiring, and since then, he'd been focused on expansion, branding, and making sure the numbers stayed green. But something had been gnawing at him the past few months. Customer satisfaction scores were dropping at 2 locations, in particular Store 9 and Store 14. And while most reviews looked like the usual noise, there were a few that didn't sit right with him. Mentions of rude staff, long waits, unclean tables, and people being talked down to. What troubled him most was that his district manager, Paul, kept brushing it off. "People exaggerate," Paul had said last week on a call. "It's a busy location. We're understaffed. That's all." Wesley didn't buy it. So he picked one of the 2 stores, number 9, located in a busy commercial stretch outside Houston, and flew down quietly. He rented a cheap car, got a beat-up travel bag, and decided to pose as a food delivery driver, someone just picking up lunch orders. Easy enough to blend in. No one at this location had ever met him in person. All hiring had been done by local managers or through corporate HR. He walked in just after noon on a Wednesday. The place was busy, but not slammed. The line was 6 deep, and 2 employees worked the counter, one young man around 20 with a headset, and a woman in her 30s who looked exhausted. Tables were half full, the air smelled like fried chicken and grease, and the music was a little too loud. Wesley got in line behind a woman in a wheelchair. She had short brown hair, a reusable water bottle in her lap, and a delivery bag strapped behind her chair. Looked like she was there to pick up food too. She rolled forward slowly as the line moved. When it was her turn, she smiled and said, "Hi, I'm here picking up an order for Lydia. It should be under Dorgo." The guy at the register squinted at the screen. "Yeah, I see it. But you can't come back here. We don't have a ramp in the pickup area." The woman blinked. "I don't need to go back. You can just hand it over." The guy shook his head. "It's policy. You gotta step around to the side. Pickup's through the side door now. We changed it last week. I'm not able to use that side," she said quietly. "It's got a step. This entrance is level." "I don't know what to tell you," he said, shrugging. "I'm not allowed to hand stuff over the counter." Wesley watched it happen from 5 feet away. His heart thudded. The woman looked around. "Can someone just hand it to me? I'm not trying to cause a problem." The guy sighed. "You're holding up the line." That was it. Wesley stepped forward. "I can take it and hand it to her." The guy turned. "You can't. You're not an employee." Wesley didn't budge. "Then why don't you do the right thing and hand it to her?" The woman behind the counter looked uncomfortable. "Ty, just give it to her." Ty rolled his eyes, grabbed the bag, and shoved it over the counter toward Wesley, who handed it gently to the woman in the wheelchair. She looked up. "Thank you?" "Really?" Wesley nodded. "You shouldn't have had to ask twice." She rolled out the door, and Wesley turned back to the counter. "I'm picking up a Dorgo order too. Under Liam." Ty didn't respond. Just tapped at the screen and handed over the bag. Wesley stepped outside, walked to his car, and sat in the driver's seat with the engine off. His hands were shaking. He wasn't just mad. He was embarrassed. This was his place. His brand. And someone just got treated like an inconvenience because they couldn't walk up a step. He waited in his car for the lunch rush to calm down, went back in an hour later, and ordered a sandwich to eat inside. He picked a corner booth and watched. Ty, the young guy, mostly stood leaning on the counter when there was no line. He barely acknowledged people. The woman, her name tag said Dina, was clearly picking up the slack. cleaning tables, restocking the drink station, answering questions while Ty scrolled on his phone. A man in his 60s with a white apron and a clipboard came out from the back. Wesley recognized him from the company directory. Lenny, the store manager. He walked straight past Ty without saying a word, gave Dina a stack of new napkins, and disappeared again. Wesley stayed until the dinner shift started. A few new faces showed up. A tall guy with a kind smile helped an elderly couple carry their trays. Wesley made a mental note of that. But Ty still barely moved. Wesley left just after 6. Back at the hotel, he called no one. He just stared at the ceiling. He'd spent the last 3 years growing the company, opening new stores, expanding delivery partnerships, even launching a loyalty app. But somewhere along the way, he'd stopped watching what mattered most: how people were treated. Tomorrow, he'd come back. Not as a delivery guy. As someone who needed help and see if anyone stepped up. He had one more disguise left in his duffel bag. And this time, it came with a wheelchair. Wesley rolled himself up the curb slowly, hands gripping the wheels of the foldable chair he'd rented that morning. The sun was already high, casting hard shadows across the parking lot. He wore an old windbreaker zipped up to his neck, jeans frayed at the bottom, and a pair of sneakers with worn soles. The shaved beard made him look older than he was. His hat was gone now. He wanted to be visible, not hidden. As he moved toward the entrance of the restaurant, he kept his eyes on the glass door. Someone had propped it open with a folded cardboard box, likely to help with airflow. The AC in Houston heat sometimes gave out when the kitchen was working overtime. He pushed himself through and paused just inside, taking in the lunch crowd. It was slower today. A few booths were filled, mostly with quiet solo diners scrolling their phones. The counter had only one person in line. He recognized the tall guy from yesterday evening, the one who'd helped the older couple carry their trays. His name tag said, Rico. Wesley rolled forward, making sure the wheels clicked softly over a loose floor tile near the counter. Rico noticed immediately and stepped forward. Afternoon, man. You picking up or ordering? Ordering, Wesley said, keeping his voice low and steady. Rico nodded. All right. Menu's up top. You good there, or want me to read anything out? I can see it. Wesley paused. Can I get the grilled chicken bowl, no cheese, and a water? Cool. You want that for here? Yeah. Rico typed it in. You got a name for the order? Sam it is. I'll bring it over when it's done. You need anything else, just wave. The transaction took less than a minute. No hesitation, no awkward glances. Just handled. Wesley rolled to an open table near the window and parked himself with a view of the register and the kitchen door. A few minutes passed. He could hear the soft clatter of pans behind the swinging door, the low hum of the drink machine. Ty wasn't on shift. Neither was Dina. A new face came out from the back, a short woman with tightly braided hair and a clipboard tucked under one arm. She didn't have a name tag. She scanned the dining room, adjusted the napkin dispenser near the condiment station, then disappeared back through the kitchen door. Rico brought the food out 5 minutes later. Here you go, Sam. Water's got a sealed cap, but let me know if you want ice or anything. Napkins are right over there. Thanks, Wesley said, watching him. You always this helpful? Rico tilted his head, a little surprised. I mean, yeah. That's the job, right? You'd be surprised what people think the job is. Rico didn't answer right away. He looked down at the tray, then back at Wesley. You a mystery shopper or something? Wesley hesitated. Not exactly. But I do pay attention. Rico gave a half grin, the kind people give when they're not sure if they should back away or stay polite. Cool. Well, shout if you need anything. Once he left, Wesley picked at the food without really tasting it. His attention stayed on the other employees. The manager, he assumed that's who the clipboard woman was, emerged twice more, each time jotting something down, never speaking to customers. Rico worked the front alone for nearly 20 minutes. When a small group of students came in, he handled them without calling for backup. A little after 1, Wesley wheeled himself toward the drink station. He struggled deliberately, letting one wheel drag slightly so the chair turned unevenly. It worked. Rico noticed and came over. "You good? Could use a hand getting back to the table." "Yeah, of course." Rico took the back of the chair and gently pushed, navigating around a table leg and setting Wesley back at his spot. "Appreciate that." "No problem. You'd be surprised how many places just let people figure it out on their own." "I've noticed," Wesley said. Rico frowned, like he wanted to say something more but thought better of it. He walked back to the counter, just as the kitchen door swung open again and Lenny stepped out. Same clipboard, same apron. His glasses perched low on his nose. He walked over to Rico and said something too low to hear. Whatever it was, Rico didn't look happy about it. "No, I'm just saying it's been 30 minutes and nobody else has clocked in," Rico said louder now. "I can't keep doing the register and bagging the orders." "Keep your voice down," Lenny muttered. "You're not the only one short-staffed. I'm not asking for backup. I'm asking for a plan. Clock out if it's that hard." Rico looked away and took a breath. "It's not about me." Lenny didn't reply. He turned and walked back toward the kitchen. Wesley watched all of it. There was nothing subtle about the tension. And Rico wasn't complaining for himself, he was trying to keep the place running. That mattered. By 2, the dining room had cleared out. Wesley rolled up to the front and waited until Rico noticed. "Need a to-go box?" "No. Just wanted to ask, how often are you guys short like this?" "Lately? Almost every day." Rico leaned on the counter with one hand. "We had more people, but they keep quitting. Training's a mess. Half the time, no one tells me when someone new is even supposed to come in." "Is Lenny always like that?" "I don't want to get into that." "I'm not recording," Wesley said. "I know." Rico looked around. "He's not the worst guy. He just doesn't listen. If something's going wrong, his first move is to shut it down, not fix it." "You ever contact corporate about it?" Rico laughed softly. "We don't even get corporate visits. Last guy who came through was 3 months ago, and that was just to check inventory systems. Nobody asks how the staff's doing. What would you change if you could?" Rico didn't hesitate. "More hands on deck. And someone who actually manages the floor. Lenny spends most of his shift in the back updating spreadsheets. I don't think he even knows who's working half the time." He paused. "Also, maybe start giving a damn when people say something's wrong. That'd be new." Wesley nodded. A door opened near the kitchen and Dina walked in, tying her apron as she moved. Rico waved to her and stepped aside so she could take the register. "You're late," Lenny barked from the back, not even looking up. "I called in," she replied, not slowing down. "No one picked up." "You're still late." Rico leaned closer to Wesley. "That's what I mean." Wesley wheeled toward the exit. "Thanks for the food." "Anytime," Rico said. "And hey, thanks for asking." Back in the car, Wesley sat for a long time. He didn't need more proof. He'd seen enough. The problem wasn't just one rude cashier. It was the absence of leadership. The culture had slipped, and no one had stepped in to catch it. He pulled out his phone and opened the company's internal HR database. He scrolled through the profile for Store 9, eyes settling on Paul's name, his district manager. According to the logs, Paul hadn't visited this location in over 6 weeks. Yet he'd signed off on the last staff evaluation just 10 days ago. The numbers had only ever told half the story. Tomorrow, Wesley would come back for the last time. Not as a customer. And not in disguise. Someone needed to answer for the way things had gone. And someone else needed to be recognized for holding the place together while no one was watching. Wesley arrived just before 10 the next morning, this time in a plain collared shirt and dark jeans. The wheelchair was gone. He walked through the front door alone, early enough to catch the opening team before the shift had settled in. The dining room was still empty, chairs barely down, the scent of bleach lingering faintly from morning cleaning. Dina stood at the register, punching in her code. She glanced up, expecting a customer, then hesitated. Her posture shifted slightly. "Can I help you?" Wesley approached the counter but didn't answer right away. He looked around once, then met her eyes. "My name is Wesley Moore. I own this company." Dina didn't move. Her fingers froze above the buttons. "I'm not here for a press-op," he said. "I'm here because I've spent the last 2 days watching how this store runs. I was the guy in the hoodie. And I was also the man in the wheelchair." A slow breath escaped her. "You were here yesterday." "I was." She lowered her hand. "You saw what happened?" "I saw everything." A door creaked open in the back, and the sound of footsteps followed. Lenny emerged, tugging his apron over one shoulder, eyes scanning the room until they landed on Wesley. He didn't recognize him. "Not yet." "Can I help? I'm Wesley Moore," Wesley said, turning toward him. "Owner of this chain. I've been here undercover." Lenny stopped mid-step, his mouth slightly open. "You're?" "Yes." Wesley stepped aside and gestured toward the dining room. "Let's sit." They moved to a corner booth in silence. Dina remained behind the counter, unsure whether to leave or stay. Lenny looked stiff, unsure whether to sit or call someone. Wesley gave him no room to maneuver. "I watched a woman in a wheelchair get denied her pickup order 2 days ago," Wesley said evenly. "I stood right behind her while your employee told her she couldn't be served at the front. I watched him blame policy. I watched you walk through the floor and ignore it completely." Lenny blinked. "I didn't see that." "You didn't see anything. You barely look at your staff when you walk by." "That's not fair." "It's exactly fair," Wesley said. "I didn't come here for a performance. I came because I had enough red flags piling up to suspect something was going wrong in your store." That moment confirmed it. Lenny shifted in his seat. "We've been short on people." Wesley raised a hand. "I understand staffing challenges. I don't expect miracles. But I do expect leadership. And what I saw here was the opposite. I saw a manager who walked through problems and left them for someone else to fix." Lenny's voice faltered. "I've been trying to keep things stable. That's why I stay in the back. To handle the schedules, the back end. You signed off on a staff evaluation last week," Wesley interrupted. "Did you write that report yourself?" Lenny hesitated. "Because according to the system logs, you haven't done a floor walkthrough in over a month. You haven't submitted a single direct employee review in that time either. But you signed your name to evaluations." Lenny's mouth opened, but no words followed. "That's falsifying documentation," Wesley said. "And that's not a staffing issue. That's a character issue." Lenny finally looked down. "I didn't think anyone would check. That's the problem." Wesley stood up. "You're being taken off store management effective immediately. You can finish your shift today, but a transition team will be here tomorrow. You'll be reassigned to non-managerial duties while we conduct a formal review." Lenny looked stunned. "I didn't mean harm. You caused harm by doing nothing," Wesley said. "You let your team carry weight you were hired to hold." He turned toward the register. "Dina," he said firmly, "call Rico. Ask him to come in an hour early. I'll stay until he gets here." She nodded, already picking up the phone. By noon, the store was moving steadily. Rico arrived just after 11, clearly unsure why he'd been called in early. When he saw Wesley standing near the counter, recognition clicked in slowly. "You were the guy in the chair," he said. "That's right." Rico looked around. "You're the owner?" "I am." Rico folded his arms slowly. "Are you here to shut us down?" "No," Wesley said. "I'm here to fix what's broken. Starting with giving credit where it's due." He gestured for Rico to follow him to the same booth where he'd sat with Lenny. They took seats across from each other. I watched how you handled yourself the past 2 days, Wesley said. You didn't just do your job. You held this place together while no one supported you. That didn't go unnoticed. Rico glanced toward the kitchen. I didn't do anything special. You did more than your role required. You treated people with respect when no one was watching. You backed up your coworkers even when your manager didn't. And you did it while working alone for most of your shift. Rico exhaled quietly. I just wanted someone to care. I do, Wesley said. I'm moving you into a team lead role, effective next week. You'll have a raise and access to leadership training. If you're interested in developing further, we'll sponsor your course load through our management track. Rico blinked hard. Seriously? You've earned it. He sat back as Rico processed the weight of it in silence. No celebration. Just quiet shock. Wesley stood. I'll be back next week to sit with the rest of the team. I want to hear directly from everyone. If they've stuck around this long, they deserve to be heard. Rico slowly nodded. We've got good people here. They just stopped being seen. I understand that now. Wesley turned back toward the front, where Dina was wiping down the counter. He stepped beside her. I owe you thanks too, he said. You've carried more than your share. That's going to change. Dina gave a small nod. I wasn't sure anyone really cared about what went on here. I care, Wesley said. And I should have shown that sooner. He glanced at the clock. The lunch crowd was already forming outside. A new rhythm began to pulse through the store, subtle but present. The pace picked up. Orders called out. Trays lifted. And behind the counter, Rico stepped forward without hesitation, guiding a trainee who just arrived, showing her where the codes were, not with frustration, but patience. Wesley didn't stay long after that. He slipped out a side door and made his way across the parking lot, his car waiting in the early afternoon sun. Before getting in, he stopped and looked back at the building. The sign hadn't changed. But something inside had. And this time, it wasn't because of a rollout or a memo. It was because someone at the top decided to look down not in judgment, but in understanding. Wesley returned to Store 9 5 days later, this time with no disguise and no need to hide. The moment he stepped through the glass doors, the energy inside was different, not drastically. Not like a switch had flipped, but the tension that had once clung to the walls like static had begun to lift. What greeted him wasn't perfection. It was movement. Imperfect but honest effort. That mattered more. He entered quietly, holding the door for a woman with 2 kids trailing behind her. She gave him a polite nod, then ushered her children toward a booth near the windows. Wesley didn't cut ahead. He waited in line like everyone else, watching how the team handled the midday rush. Rico was at the front, guiding a new trainee through the register system. The trainee, a soft-spoken teenager with nervous hands, stumbled over a combo option. Rico kept his tone steady without stepping in too quickly. He let the kid try, then nudged him in the right direction. The line moved at a steady pace. Dina passed behind them with a tray of refilled sauces, greeting customers by name as she wiped down the drink station. There was no overcompensation, no one trying to look busy just because the owner had shown up. They were working. For real. Not for show. Wesley ordered a chicken wrap and sat in the same booth he'd used when pretending to be Sam. From there, he could see the kitchen pass through, the front counter, and the dining area. Lenny wasn't there. Per policy, he'd been placed on administrative reassignment pending the outcome of an internal audit. Wesley hadn't spoken with him since delivering the news. The interim floor lead, sent from corporate, had arrived 2 days earlier, a woman named Karina with a background in store recovery. She didn't hover or bark orders. Instead, she stood near the kitchen, clipboard tucked under one arm, occasionally checking inventory or quietly pointing out prep errors to the back line. She made adjustments without drawing attention to herself, and the team seemed to respond to her presence with a cautious kind of relief. Wesley waited until the lunch wave thinned before stepping toward the back hallway where the employee break area sat. He knocked once on the open door and found Rico sitting at the small table, sipping from a paper cup while reviewing the task tracker on a tablet. Rico looked up, then stood. "Wasn't sure if you were really coming back." Wesley nodded. "I said I would." "You want to sit?" Wesley took the chair across from him. The room was small, just 2 chairs and a fridge that buzzed unevenly, but it was clean. Someone had wiped the table down recently. A laminated schedule hung beside the door, the names color-coded and organized. "How's the new schedule working out?" Wesley asked. "Better," Rico said. "Still tight, but we're not scrambling every hour. Karina's been helping cover gaps while we bring in new hires." "You trust her?" "She listens." "That's more than we've had in a while." Wesley leaned forward, hands resting on his knees. "I came to talk about something else. Not just today. Long term." Rico's expression didn't change, but his posture shifted slightly, like he was bracing for news. "I'd like you to take on the assistant manager position," Wesley said. "Officially. It's more than a title, it means overseeing training, onboarding, and helping rebuild the floor culture here. It won't be easy. You'll still be short-staffed for a while. You'll still have to cover more than you should some days. But it's a start." Rico didn't respond right away. He set down the tablet and rubbed the side of his jaw. "I never really saw myself running anything. That's probably why you should." Rico looked at him directly. "You know I don't have a degree, right? No certifications. I've just been here a long time. You've done more in 3 shifts than most managers do in 30. I care a lot less about paperwork and a lot more about what you've done when no one was watching." Rico let out a slow breath. "You're serious?" "I don't say things I don't mean." Rico gave a short nod. "Then yeah. I'll do it." Wesley stood and extended a hand. Rico took it, firm grip, no theatrics. "I'll make sure you're set up with support," Wesley said. "I'm not handing you a title and walking away. I figured you weren't that kind of boss." "I used to be." Rico didn't press, and Wesley didn't offer more. They'd both said enough. Later that afternoon, Wesley gathered the staff in the dining room after the final lunch rush. No formal speech, no microphones. Just the people who had stuck it out: Dina, Rico, 2 new hires, a part-time dishwasher named Marco who'd been silently dependable through every shift, and a few others who'd picked up hours during the chaos. Wesley stood in front of them with his sleeves rolled up and no clipboard in sight. "I came here because I stopped trusting the reports I was getting," he said. "What I saw in person didn't match what I was being told. That's my failure. I relied on distance when I should have been paying attention up close." No one interrupted. Even the youngest kids in the crew were listening. "I saw people showing up, doing more than they had to, and not getting recognized for it. I saw others doing the opposite and getting away with it. That ends now." He paused, letting the silence settle. "We're not going to fix everything in a week. Some of you are still covering extra shifts. Some of you are training while still learning yourselves. But moving forward, you'll have more say in what happens here. Starting next month, every store will have a rotating liaison, someone from the floor who joins a monthly check-in with corporate. That person changes every quarter. No managers. Just you." Dina raised her eyebrows slightly. Wesley met her eyes. "You've earned the right to be heard," he said. "This isn't a reward. It's a responsibility." Wesley didn't stay much longer. He shook hands with everyone there, spoke a little more privately with the new hires, and left without fanfare. No photos, no press release. Just a quiet exit through the side door. Back in his rental car, he sat for a moment, watching the restaurant through the windshield. A young woman in scrubs pushed the door open, entered with a tired look, and was greeted with a smile from Rico. No hesitation. No policy excuses. Just service. Wesley pulled out his phone and opened the dashboard for corporate scheduling. He scrolled through the regional store list until he reached store 14. The complaints there hadn't been as loud, but the numbers were starting to look familiar. He tapped the corner of the screen and added a private note. Visit unscheduled. No notice. Within 2 weeks. As he set the phone down, he made a quiet promise to himself, not out loud, not for show. He wouldn't let things slide again. Not because of shame. But because now he knew better. And knowing better came with a price. You had to act. Every time. Even when no one else was looking. Especially then.